welcome back. You're watching Overdrive. Over the years, Lamborghini has gained the reputation of building uncompromising and slightly mental sports cars.
What happens when a car manufacturer breaks ranks to defend independent repair in the ultra-exclusive hypercar world? Lamborghini's CEO just did exactly that, stirring a firestorm that has Bugatti scrambling in response. The stakes are sky high. Millions of dollars, brand reputation, and the very future of who truly owns a car after purchase are all on the line. At the center of the storm is Matt Armstrong, a mechanic whose self-taught approach to fixing a wrecked Bugatti has forced the industry to confront uncomfortable questions. Could Lamborghini's public support shift the balance in what seemed like an unwinnable battle? This is no ordinary automotive spat. The CEO's bombshell statement. In a move that sent ripples through the elite tier of automotive manufacturing, Lamborghini's CEO publicly challenged long-standing industry norms around independent repair. His statement, far from a casual remark, was a precise declaration supporting transparency, documentation, and engagement with enthusiasts who work on highly complex vehicles outside official channels. For a company known for guarding its brand closely and controlling every aspect of its cars, this was unexpected. It was as if Lamborghini had quietly stepped into the spotlight to say something many insiders had only whispered before. This statement wasn't merely philosophical. It directly confronted a culture of institutional blockades and parts blacklists that have kept high-end repair firmly under manufacturer control. By backing the idea that independent repairs are a legitimate, sustainable path, Lamborghini signaled a remarkable shift in thinking. It implicitly questioned the strategies that brands like Bugatti have taken to restrict owners' ability to independently maintain or restore their cars. The implications of these words alone were enough to stir controversy. The timing added even more weight. After Porsche exited its minority stake in Bugatti, leaving the brand without its powerful corporate guardian, Lamborghini's CEO stepped forward with a stance that seemed carefully calculated to provoke. This wasn't a slip-up or accidental reveal. It was a deliberate challenge aimed squarely at the established order of hypercar ownership and repair. By endorsing Matt Armstrong's efforts, despite Bugatti's opposition, Lamborghini essentially threw down a gauntlet to the rest of the industry. While the precise details behind this statement's motivation are complex, its impact was immediate and electrifying. It touched a nerve within Bugatti, whose leadership has long enforced strict limitations on repairs beyond authorized dealerships. Suddenly, one of their closest rivals was publicly endorsing a position that undermined Bugatti's carefully maintained exclusivity. The automotive world watched closely as the ramifications began to unfold, with calls and messages lighting up Bugatti's offices. Lamborghini's CEO isn't just speaking as the head of a competitor. He represents a company within the same corporate family that once backed Bugatti's hardline stance. This adds layers of tension, as it hints at internal discord within the Volkswagen Group's ecosystem of luxury brands. Could this signify a philosophical split over how to treat customers and their ability to maintain expensive vehicles? The question loomed large as enthusiasts and industry watchers absorbed the full meaning behind the statement. At its core, the CEO's remark challenges the implicit control manufacturers exert long after a car is sold. It calls into question who really owns a hypercar, the company that built it or the person who purchased it. This isn't simply about fixing broken vehicles. It's a fundamental dispute over ownership rights and brand identity in the luxury automotive market. The CEO's words cracked open a debate that had simmered beneath the surface for years. The intense spotlight on Lamborghini's position naturally leads us straight into Bugatti's notorious hardline approach to third-party repairs. Bugatti's hardline repair stance. Bugatti's approach to post-sale repair has traditionally been rigid and protective, reflecting the extraordinary complexity and exclusivity of its vehicles. The brand enforces strict control over who can access parts, information, and diagnostic tools. aiming to safeguard safety and preserve the integrity of its cars. Central to this stance is the controversial practice of locking the vehicle identification number, or VIN, to prevent unauthorized repairs or parts procurement. This effectively bars independent mechanics from servicing Bugattis, even when owners attempt repairs themselves. The technical justifications Bugatti presents for their restrictive policies are substantial. These cars feature cutting-edge materials such as carbon fiber structural frames, highly calibrated safety systems like airbags, and transmissions that rely on precise factory specifications. The concern is that rebuilding or repairing a vehicle without factory oversight could compromise safety and performance, potentially endangering not just the owner, but others on the road. Bugatti has repeatedly emphasized these legitimate engineering complexities whenever challenged. Despite these rationales, Bugatti's institutional machinery seems to have leaned heavily toward brand protection and exclusivity, even at the expense of owner autonomy. When Matt Armstrong took on the daunting challenge of repairing a crashed Chiron Pur Sport, Bugatti responded by locking the VIN, denying access to parts, and enforcing a parts blacklist. This meant that the self-taught mechanic couldn't source essential components easily, effectively cutting him out of official channels and escalating the battle into a highly public conflict. Underneath this stance was also Volkswagen Group's historical influence. Volkswagen and its subsidiaries have long managed their luxury brands with a mix of exclusivity and centralized control. Bugatti's policies reflected not just safety concerns, but decades of tradition around protecting brand value by limiting how and where cars can be serviced. This strategy isn't unique to Bugatti. It echoes a wider industry perspective that prioritizes controlled access over open repair. However, the consequences of this approach became more visible and divisive than ever before. The public spectacle of a self-taught mechanic taking on what Bugatti declared impossible caught widespread attention. It exposed a tension between legitimate safety concerns and what many perceived as heavy-handed control that endangered ownership rights. Bugatti's refusal to engage with Armstrong's rebuild beyond institutional blockades sparked heated debates both inside and outside the automotive world. The spotlight on Bugatti's policies cannot be understood fully without looking at the man who ignited this intense debate by taking on the seemingly impossible: Matt Armstrong. Matt Armstrong and the rebuild saga. Armstrong is not your typical automotive industry figure. A self-taught mechanic from Leicester, England, he became the unexpected protagonist of one of the most closely watched rebuilds in recent times. When a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, a car valued in the millions and known for its extraordinary complexity, was wrecked in Miami, the owner turned to Armstrong for a repair solution after the insurer declared it a total loss. This was the beginning of a saga that would pit an independent enthusiast against a global luxury brand. What set Armstrong apart was not just his willingness to take on a nearly impossible task, but his decision to document every step of the rebuild openly. He filmed critical moments such as splitting the Chiron's front end from the rear, a procedure Bugatti insisted could only be done in a handful of authorized facilities worldwide. Armstrong's careful fabrication of a replacement front crash bar, the innovative use of parts from other vehicles, and the painstaking calibration of airbags and electronics were all laid bare on his channel. The public nature of the rebuild transformed it from a simple repair job into a demonstration of skill, creativity, and persistence. Millions watched as he overcame obstacles Bugatti claimed were insurmountable without factory support. This visibility challenged the narrative that only authorized dealers could safely repair hypercars, inspiring a broad community eager for change in high-end vehicle ownership rights. At the same time, Armstrong's project became a flashpoint for corporate pushback. Bugatti's decision to block parts and lock the VIN was felt not just as a defensive move, but as an attack on his effort and, by extension, on owners seeking autonomy over their vehicles. The conflict escalated from a technical question to a symbolic fight over who controls a car's destiny after sale. Armstrong's success in rebuilding parts of the car, despite these challenges, sparked admiration but also fierce debate. Skeptics questioned the safety and legitimacy of independent repairs on cars as complex as a Chiron, while supporters praised the demonstration of craftsmanship and determination. This polarization only added fuel to the fire. Importantly, Armstrong didn't set out to start a movement. He simply aimed to fix a car. Yet his videos became a platform spotlighting an issue the automotive industry had largely avoided: the right to repair in one of the most exclusive sectors imaginable. His work exposed both the practical difficulties and the broader implications of manufacturer-controlled repair ecosystems. The stance Lamborghini is now taking gains its full context from this intense backdrop, adding a new level of drama and consequence to an already explosive story. The Volkswagen Group and corporate shifts. The tangled corporate roots behind Bugatti's strict repair policies trace back to its former ties with the Volkswagen Group, a global automotive powerhouse known for managing luxury brands with tight control. For years, Volkswagen exerted significant influence over Bugatti, providing not only financial backing but also strategic direction, especially regarding brand protection and exclusivity. This centralized control helped shape Bugatti's hardline stance on independent repairs, locking VYNs and blocking parts to maintain a fortress-like grip on their vehicles post-sale. But changes at the corporate level have since shaken this foundation. In April 2026, Porsche, which owned 45% of Bugatti Rimac, stunned the automotive world by selling its stake and walking away from Bugatti entirely. They cited a near 93% collapse in profits and the need to focus on their core business as the reasons for exit. This departure removed a key institutional supporter of Bugatti's repair restrictions and sent a clear signal that the old guard's influence was waning. Without Porsche's backing, Bugatti suddenly found itself operating without the kind of corporate shield that once legitimated its defensive posture. Soon after Porsche's exit, a new investor group led by HOF Capital stepped in, bringing fresh eyes and philosophies to Bugatti's ownership. HOF Capital is a New York-based investment firm better known for holdings in cutting-edge technology companies like SpaceX and Anthropic, rather than traditional automakers. Their approach emphasizes transparency, community engagement, and long-term growth through openness rather than exclusivity. This shift in investor mindset stands in stark contrast to the conservative, scarcity-focused values that Volkswagen and Porsche had prioritized. Matt Armstrong, now Bugatti's CEO, reflects this transitional period. While he has publicly described his resistance to Matt Armstrong's rebuild as institutional rather than personal, Rimac finds himself at the crossroads of evolving corporate tactics and brand identity. The new ownership wants to preserve Bugatti's prestige, but recognize that the old barriers may no longer be sustainable in a market where independent repair advocates have a growing voice. It is a delicate balancing act between protecting brand integrity and embracing a more open future. This corporate shakeup has coincided with Armstrong's ongoing rebuild project, which continues to attract significant attention. As the channels documenting the process grow in audience, the pressure on Bugatti intensifies. Their traditional methods of institutional blockade are increasingly scrutinized not only by enthusiasts, but also by the brand's new investors, who are less tolerant of inflexible policies. Bugatti faces a strategic dilemma: reevaluate their approach or risk alienating both customers and powerful stakeholders. Meanwhile, Volkswagen's influence lingers subtly across its former brands, including Lamborghini. Unlike Bugatti, Lamborghini remains firmly within the Volkswagen Group's fold, but the recent controversy highlights internal contradictions. Lamborghini's public endorsement of engagement with independent repair communities challenges the very principles their corporate family once upheld. This philosophical divergence opens questions about whether internal pressures, are reshaping how these luxury marques relate to their owners. The automotive world's response to Lamborghini's declaration and the broader repair debate has created a fascinating tapestry of opinions, emotions, and challenges that go far beyond the cars themselves. Industry and community reactions. When Lamborghini's CEO publicly endorsed independent enthusiast repair as a legitimate conversation, the automotive community erupted. Online forums, YouTube comment sections, podcasts, and social media have been buzzing with a mixture of excitement, skepticism, and heated debate. The dominant sentiment among many enthusiasts is one of vindication. An ultra-premium brand with cars every bit as complex as Bugatti's openly questioning the industry's long-standing gatekeeping. This rare public support feels like a turning point in what some are calling a right-to-repair revolution. The term unhinged has even been affectionately used in comment threads to capture the intensity and unexpectedness of Lamborghini's position. Enthusiasts see this as a collective win, not just for Matt Armstrong, but for anyone who has felt constrained by manufacturers' refusal to share parts or technical knowledge. The sheer effort and transparency Armstrong has displayed in his rebuild have resonated deeply with a community keen to reclaim ownership rights. Lamborghini's CEO stepping up to validate that message added corporate weight to what was until then a grassroots movement. At the same time, a more nuanced conversation has emerged around whether Lamborghini's words will hold true in practice. Critics argue that Lamborghini has enjoyed the luxury of principle without yet facing the test of a high-profile independent rebuild. They point out Lamborghini's vehicles have not been subjected to the same kind of public, contentious repair saga as Bugatti's Chiron Pur Sport. There is a brewing question. Will Lamborghini maintain this openness when confronted with a wrecked Huracan or Aventador in a similar situation? Skepticism remains about how this philosophy will fare against real institutional machinery. Conversely, those defending Lamborghini highlight the strategic brilliance in their timing and messaging. They suggest that Bugatti's very public struggles have created an opportunity to present the brand as enlightened and customer-focused by comparison. From this view, corporate actors can simultaneously hold principled stances and seize business advantages, a hallmark of savvy governance rather than opportunism. Blending genuine ethics with market strategy is far from contradictory, but rather a hallmark of intelligent brand positioning. Bugatti watchers have also noted the increasing discomfort this debate causes internally. The people who originally pushed the strict parts blacklists and VIN locks find themselves judged by a new standard established not by regulators, but by competitors and the public. This pressure is amplified as Armstrong's video content continues to flourish, bringing millions of viewers into the conversation and framing the issue in a way Bugatti cannot easily control. What makes this conflict even more intense is the wider socio-political momentum behind the right-to-repair movement. Governments, regulatory bodies in North America and Europe are already considering legislation that could enforce repair transparency and parts availability. These developments suggest that industry attitudes are not just a matter of corporate preference, but are becoming subject to external legal and political forces. Lamborghini's statement might be part of a preemptive alignment with these shifting tides. As these perspectives collide, the conversation expands beyond Lamborghini and Bugatti, touching on fundamental questions about ownership, control, and trust between manufacturers and their customers, a conversation that is only just beginning. The future of ownership and repair. At the heart of this unfolding drama lies a profound question: who truly owns a car once it leaves the factory? The traditional answer, that the buyer owns the vehicle outright, has become increasingly complicated, especially for ultra-luxury hypercars like Bugatti's Chiron Pur Sport. These machines are not simply mechanical objects. They are intricate ecosystems of proprietary software, specialized hardware, and tightly controlled safety calibrations. Manufacturers argue that this complexity justifies ongoing control over repairs, but that stance deeply challenges consumers' sense of ownership. Bugatti's position, in particular, suggests that a car can only be safely operated if it is rebuilt and maintained under factory supervision. This means the ownership experience is more like a license subject to ongoing conditions determined far beyond the purchaser's control. If this is accepted as the norm, it reshapes the relationship between brands and owners profoundly, raising concerns about autonomy and freedom and fairness. For many, the idea that someone in Molsheim can still dictate what a car is allowed to be feels unacceptable. On the other side, independent repair advocates see Matt Armstrong's rebuild and Lamborghini's CEO's support as a challenge to this tightly regulated model. They argue that with the right skills, transparency, and goodwill, enthusiasts and independent workshops can safely maintain and even restore these marvels. Armstrong's documented process, openly shared with millions, has become a powerful symbol of what is possible when ownership rights are respected and knowledge is democratized. This movement demands that manufacturers rethink their grip on vehicles after sale. This debate is a microcosm of the wider right to repair movement flourishing across many industries. From tractors to smartphones, manufacturers have long resisted outside repairs under the guise of safety and quality control. Yet public opinion and regulatory pressure are shifting the balance toward greater consumer empowerment. What began as a niche issue has become a significant battleground involving legal frameworks, consumer rights, and corporate strategies, carved out in very public ways by events like the Bugatti rebuild saga. The regulatory environment is slowly evolving as well. Authorities in Europe and North America are increasingly attentive to the right to repair, proposing rules that may force manufacturers to provide parts, tools, and information to independent repairers. These efforts aim to reduce waste, foster competition, and protect consumer rights. The automotive sector, with its escalating technological complexity, stands at the forefront of these conversations. The decisions made now will influence standards for years to come. For Bugatti and Lamborghini, the stakes could not be higher. Bugatti must decide whether it will soften its stance and open its ecosystem or double down on exclusivity and control, risking alienation of customers and regulators. Lamborghini, having publicly taken a more progressive position, will soon face the real-world test of its promises. How they respond when confronted with their own instances of independent repair will define their credibility and influence the entire industry's direction. Lamborghini's CEO has shaken the automotive world by backing independent repair, challenging Bugatti's iron grip on its cars. This isn't just about fixing vehicles. It's about who owns them once they leave the factory. As Matt Armstrong's rebuild continues and the industry grapples with these questions, one thing is certain: the definition of ownership is evolving. If you want to stay ahead of this story, like and subscribe, because the most interesting chapters are just beginning.